All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a purely data-driven framework for evaluating property management in the Kansas City metro area. If you own, or maybe you're just considering, a Kansas City rental property, look, finding the right partner to protect that asset is literally one of the most high-leverage decisions you are ever going to make.
Just a quick heads up before we get into the numbers. This explainer is strictly for educational purposes only. It doesn't constitute legal or tax advice, so please always consult a professional regarding your specific investment situation.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're starting with the Kansas City opportunity, then we'll look at evaluating property managers, comparing local companies, and finally, the specific demands for remote investors.
All right, part 1, the Kansas City opportunity, strong fundamentals and economic catalysts. A massive part of that opportunity starts with a single highly attractive number, $289,000. That is right around the current median home price for the metro area. And here is why that number matters so much. It is roughly 32% below the national average. For you as an investor, this lower barrier to entry is incredibly appealing, especially when we start looking at the cash flow potential. Throw in solid metro rents hanging right around that $1,201 to $1,400 mark, and the picture gets even better. But it's not just about today's numbers. We've got major economic engines firing up here, like a massive new Panasonic battery plant and, oh yeah, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. When you stack all of this together, you are looking at the rock-solid foundation for real, sustainable cash flow. Okay, moving on to Section 2. Evaluating property managers, the framework for protecting your asset. Because, let's be real, great market fundamentals mean absolutely nothing if your property is mismanaged. So how do you actually evaluate a potential partner? You look at 4 essential pillars: the real fee structure, communication speed, tenant screening rigor, and out-of-state support. Honestly, these 4 factors are the absolute best predictors of whether you'll actually be happy with your management partner a couple years down the road. Let's zero in on fees first. The national benchmark for full-service residential management usually sits between 8 to 12% of collected rent. So if you see a rate significantly lower than that, consider it a red flag. You've got to check the fine print for hidden costs like unexpected lease-up fees, renewal fees, sneaky maintenance markups, or even vacancy charges. It really requires a mindset shift. The total cost of ownership, not the management percentage, is the number that actually matters. Think about it. A 10% manager who actively keeps your property occupied is easily going to out-earn a cheaper 6% manager who lets it sit vacant for 2 months, or worse, places a bad tenant who just stops paying. And speaking of tenants, your returns absolutely live and die on tenant quality. A high rent collection rate? That is not luck. It is the direct result of rigorous screening. We're talking strict income requirements, deep credit and background checks, and a really thorough eviction history review. Which brings us to Section 3, comparing local companies, an objective look at Kansas City operators. Let's apply that framework and look neutrally at 5 established players in the market today. Alpine Property Management Kansas City really excels for remote owners who want a transparent, flat fee. Then you have Evernest and Home River Group, which offer massive national scale. Scudo gives you a mix of local brokerage and management, and Oz Accommodations brings decades of local history to the table. Ultimately, the best choice depends entirely on your specific goals.
Just to highlight some specific operational data, let's take a closer look at Alpine. Serving Kansas City investors since 2013, they manage over 250 doors. They maintain a remarkably low 14-day average vacancy rate and boast a 98% rent collection rate. That right there is a textbook example of how operational efficiency and strict on-the-ground screening translate into highly consistent numbers. Now, this raises a really important question for folks who can't just hop in their car and drive by their properties. What exactly should out-of-state investors demand from these companies? That leads us right into our final section, demands for remote investors, managing your asset from afar. Look, because your property manager is literally your eyes and hands on the ground, you have to demand the right remote tools. You need real-time owner portal for pulling financial statements on demand. You need predictable direct deposits. You need named contacts who commit to same business day communication. And you absolutely must have documented maintenance processes with pre-approved spending limits. Also, keep geography in mind.
The Kansas City Metro uniquely spans two completely different states, so your manager has to know the jurisdictional differences inside and out. Take Missouri, for example. There is a complete lack of rent control and very specific eviction timelines. Kansas, on the other hand, operates under entirely different landlord-tenant regulations and legal nuances. You need an expert who gets both. They also need highly granular local knowledge. A stellar manager will help you buy and hold in the right neighborhoods based on your exact strategy. They'll tell you to target independence if you're strictly chasing cash flow, or maybe point you toward Lease Summit if long-term appreciation is your primary goal. Of course, looking at all of this, it is totally natural to wonder, should I just manage my Kansas City rental myself?
Well, the reality is that self-management really depends on your available time, your physical distance from the property, and honestly, your personal tolerance for midnight tenant calls about a broken water heater. It is absolutely possible to do it yourself, but for most remote owners, the peace of mind and strict screening provided by professional management easily ends up paying for itself over time.
But what if you already have a manager and you're just sick of the hidden fees or terrible communication? Switching is actually simpler than you might think. Usually, it is just a matter of checking your contract and giving a 30 to 60-day notice. A good incoming manager will step right in and handle the heavy lifting, transferring the leases, the deposits, and all the tenant records for you.
Ultimately, finding a management company that perfectly aligns with your goals is one of the highest leverage decisions you can make. The right partner protects your asset, keeps it occupied, and ensures you get paid on time every single time.
So, before you evaluate your next deal, really ask yourself, is your current property management strategy maximizing your investment, or is it secretly draining your returns? For help managing your Kansas City rental property, call Alpine at 816-343-4520 or visit alpinekansascity.com.